Hey, everybody. You're all preparing to give your presentations for the Capstone Symposium. If you're doing a poster presentation, you're preparing for the online symposium. And obviously, when we're doing an online symposium, there are some things to consider. First of all, you're going to be in a breakout room, and you are going to be in charge of that breakout room. You're going to be managing that breakout room. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then I also want to talk about how you might make your poster presentation a little bit more dynamic. So first of all, remember that when you are giving your poster presentation as the manager of your breakout room, you have to think about how you're going to do that. So one thing that you likely want to consider, or at least the first thing that you likely want to consider, is how you're going to engage your audience. Now, it's probably pretty clear to you that I'm using my hands as I talk, and you'll have to consider that when you're doing your presentation in your breakout room, because you're going to be doing this on your computer screen and using your web camera. For the most part, we think about that as really just being your face. Because you're giving a presentation, you have to think about how you can incorporate hand gestures and other body movements to keep momentum going and to keep it a little bit more engaging. So think about that, and consider maybe recording yourself giving your pitch, your presentation, so that it's very clear. Your poster will act as a visual aid that hopefully you can walk through with your audience to give them your evidence and to explain the conclusions of your work. The way that most people do this, and I'll just give you sort of an overview of how I would use the breakout room, is obviously there are going to be multiple breakout rooms going simultaneously. And because of that, you're going to have to expect that people are going to be coming in and jumping out of your breakout room at regular intervals. It's going to be important for you to let your audience know how you will manage your breakout room. My suggestion to you would be to start off by welcoming everyone to your space and asking folks if they have any questions. Let them know that they can add questions to the chat, or that they can raise their little digital hand, or maybe you just want them to verbalize their questions if they have them. Whatever is most comfortable for you. Make sure that you arrange your screen so that you can see the chat, for instance. That would be a good thing to do. Or if you can't see the chat for some reason, that you explain to people that if they have questions, they should just ask them out loud. Maybe you want them to hold their questions for the end. It's totally up to you. So ask people if they have questions. Let them know when you will start giving your presentation. So in this case, when you will go through your pitch, describing your work, using your poster as a visual aid. I would say something like, yeah, welcome to my breakout room. I am very excited to talk to you. I'll begin my presentation, my short presentation, in 2 minutes. If you have any questions as you look over my poster, then please feel free to ask. Then 2 minutes go by. You say, well, welcome everyone. I'm going to give a short presentation that'll last about 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, using my poster as a visual aid. Let's go ahead and begin. And so you're going to start walking through your poster. Maybe you use your mouse to, if you feel comfortable using your mouse to point out certain parts of your poster, walking through, and then at the end of your presentation, say, does anyone have any questions for me? Hopefully they do. You'll answer those questions. Be comfortable with a little bit of silence. That is, unless you thought ahead to maybe have one of your guests, friends, family, classmates there to ask a question of you. That's a good way to sort of fill that space and maybe make it a little bit more interactive. Show your audience that you're willing to hear some questions, that sort of thing. Okay, that's one approach. And then essentially you'll just repeat that process over and over again during your session. You'll go through your presentation many times over. And of course, you'll have a new audience periodically to talk about these things. I would recommend having a glass of water handy, making sure that you have your notes handy in case there's anything else that comes up, or that you want to make sure that you hit certain points within your presentation. And that's how you should manage your breakout room. You can also use your chat to give people additional information, maybe send them links to things. This is a great networking opportunity, so make sure that you're using it that way. There's going to be lots of alumni there. There's going to be faculty, site supervisors from other organizations. Yeah, make the most of it. Next thing I want to talk about is how to make your presentation more dynamic, okay? Obviously, the poster that I'm showing you right now, it's not my poster. This is Lilia Stone's poster from a few years ago. A couple things that you should know, depending on what kind of screen, what size screen you are viewing this on, some of the elements of this poster might look pretty small, right? And so this poster was formatted 40 by 30 inches. And the reason we do that is that when we do a live poster session, we want all the posters to be the same size, 40 by 30 inches. Some of these posters will be printed out. We'll hang them in our lobby. We want them all to be the same size. And so when we format them for that size, and then the fonts and everything are meant to project well at that size. But some of your audience members during the online poster session might be using a relatively small screen, maybe a tablet, maybe a laptop. Some of these elements might be small for them. So I want to talk about how you might make your presentation slightly more dynamic. Recall that that you're using PowerPoint, right? And so it's meant as a presentation software. There are a lot of dynamic aspects to that you wouldn't get if you had a printed poster. So let me talk through some of the ways that you might make a more dynamic presentation. So first of all, here's my overall poster. If I was presenting this, I would start here. Now I'm going to go ahead and start giving my presentation. Let's begin by looking at my background. Okay, I can move in and look at my background. Now back to my main poster. Now let's say I want to move on to my research question. I'm going to start talking about that. Okay, I've zoomed into my research question. Now let's talk about my internship and methods. Move in to internship and methods. And of course, after the internship and methods, I want to talk about my results. Let's start with the top portion of my results section, zooming into this figure so I can let people see some of the detail. And now I want to move down to the lower half of my results section and show people these figures so they can see them again in more detail. Moving on to the solutions that I have. Okay, I zoom in on the solution space. Now I'm going to talk about significance and next steps. All right, now here's an interesting place. In the significance and next steps, Lily has shown a diagram or schematic for creating a box filter for air pollutants. This schematic is really interesting, but maybe we want to talk about this in more detail. Maybe I want to show people what it's actually like to build one of these filters. Well, the beauty of doing this in PowerPoint is that you can add multimedia materials, maybe additional pictures, or in this case, maybe we want to build in a video. So here's a video.
A 20-inch box
here's
fan.
a video from a YouTube, and it's easy enough to add YouTube. And so now, as the presenter, I can walk my audience through the process of building this filter. You could do this with anything. You could do it with images. You could do it with other video that you find. If there's something else that you want to add into your presentation that you think will add value and make it more interesting and descriptive for your audience, then go ahead and do it. All right, now I'm moving back to my overall poster. And then finally, I want to acknowledge my site supervisor, my faculty advisor, friends, family, all the people who made this experience possible for me. And then that's the end. And I can, depending on how I have this set up, I can move back to my main poster. All right, so how did I do that? Well, first thing that that you should know is that obviously this isn't just a single slide anymore, it's a whole deck. And in this case, what I've done is I've put in subsequent slides that allow me to zoom in on various aspects of the poster. And you'll notice that essentially what's happened is I start with my main slide, I zoom in, I zoom back out, I zoom in, I zoom back out, and I repeat this process over and over again, including the slide where I have the video embedded. It's really not terribly complicated. I'm going to walk you through the steps to make this happen once you have your final poster ready. It really honestly shouldn't take you longer than about a half an hour to create this more dynamic poster format. Key things to note here, I'm in the slide sorter mode. You might find that looking at individual slides might be a little bit easier for you to start with, but I do want to point out that what I've done is I'm going between the main slide, a zoom slide, main slide, zoom slide. And I actually think the zoom transition is pretty handy for this. The way that you establish transitions, by the way, is you go up to the transition tab, you open that up. In slide sorter is super simple because you can select all the slides that you, say, for instance, want to zoom in on, and you just select all of those like this. And then you go up to zoom, and you can either zoom in or zoom out. That's simple. At the other slide, and then once you've zoomed in, you could go back to the other slides, the zoom out slides, and select all of those and do the same thing, but this time you would zoom out. So super simple in that regard. Now, let's walk through the rest of the process, because it is important to understand that in order to do the zoom in, you do have to do one other thing. And I want to make sure that that is super obvious to all of you, that everybody knows how to do this if they want to do it. Let me go to, I'm going to open up this slide presentation so you can see. So this is my starting point. You'll notice that this is just the final presentation that Lily has made. First thing that you want to do is make sure that you have established a slide background. Most of you will probably have chosen a solid slide background. It is really important that the slide background, and you can get to that by right-clicking or control-clicking format background. You can also get to it through the format tab up top. You do this, and you want to make sure that you have your color selected for the background, because the background is going to be separate from the slide elements. Okay. Now, if you're like me, you have created a poster where each one of the elements in the poster is sort of a separate box or grouping. So I can click on any of these, and you see how they're all sort of separate. That's what Lily has done here. The first thing that you will want to do is select all the elements on your poster, which you can do by dragging a box over the top of them. You can also go up to Edit and select all. All right, now you are going to want to arrange and group. So I've just grouped all the elements on the poster. So if I do this, you see that I can move it around freely as one combined element. Now, here's the important part. If you want to do that zoom thing that I was just showing you, you're going to want to save this as a picture. Okay, that's the first thing to do. So the easiest way to do that is to right mouse click if you're on a PC, or control click. Control click. You go to the outer box here, control click, and on the group, and now you can save as a picture. Okay, that'll call up a menu, and you're going to want to name this whatever you want to name it. I'm going to name it a Stone 01 PNG. It's really actually quite useful to save this as a PNG because that gives you a transparent background. All right, so now I have saved this as a PNG. Now, the next step for me is to insert a duplicate slide. All right, and you see I have a second slide that's the same as the first one, which is super helpful. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is now insert my image that I just created. Remember, a Stone 1 PNG. I'm going to insert that. It's going to be really small when it comes in, but now I'm going to make it big so that it fills essentially the same space as my original poster. I can line it up. There's all kinds of things you can do to make it line up fine if you want, but really that's the most important piece. I'm gonna, and now for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to delete the underlying grouped image. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and select it and delete it. And now it's gone. And now all I have is the picture of those elements. And that's a really important piece, right? I have basically just created a duplicate of my original poster as an image. And now at this point, I'm going to duplicate this slide a couple of times just for demonstration. All right, so I've just included duplicates, 3 duplicates of the slide that is just essentially a photo of my poster elements. 1, 2, 3, they're all the same. Now, if I wanted to do that zoom effect on one section of my poster, I'm going to go to the third of these slides. And in fact, I could even get rid of the first one. So now I just have 3. So I have my starting, I have this one, and I have this one. They're all identical. I'm going to go to the middle one, and I am going to resize it. Okay, so I can just go up here to Format Picture. The way that you can get to that through the menu at the top. You can have Format Object here, and so now I go over here to where there's a little icon that shows the dimensions, and I'm going to scale this up. So right now you see that it's scaled to be 100%. That's its current size. Make sure that you have your locked aspect ratio, and I am going to make this 175%. That should make it 175% in both height and width. And now all I need to do is recenter it however I think is best. Okay, that's adequate. And now essentially I have an up close version of my background and context. If I go to slide sorter view, you can see this a little bit easier. So I had my original poster image, full size. I zoom in and then back to original poster full size. As I mentioned before, if you want a cool transition, well, I'll just show you what this looks like. So I'll start here. Here's my original poster in full screen mode. Now I click the button, I'm zoomed in, and I click the button and I'm back to the original. I've just gone through those 3 slides. Now that was great, but maybe I want to have that cool transition where I zoom in and zoom back out. So I go to my zoomed in poster slide. I look for the transition that is the zoom. I make sure that it is in the zoom in, and now the transition has been applied. Now I go to the next slide. So this is where I want to zoom back out. I go to zoom, and in this case, I go to zoom out. So this 3 slide series, I will show you again. There's the full size poster. Push the button. Now I'm zoomed in. Push the button again, and now I'm zoomed out. And of course, you would just repeat this over and over again until you got through all the sections of your poster, or at least the sections of your poster that you want to emphasize for your presentation. I think this is a reasonably good and pretty quick way to create a dynamic presentation for a poster session online. And as I already showed you, you can add other elements, add images, add video. If there are other things that you want your audience to see, why not show it to them? All right, I hope this has been helpful to you. I will put the example on our poster 101 page if you want to take a closer look at it. Otherwise, you all have a great day. Bye-bye.